turn to the run game, where Shanahan has been a very proven productor, that zone blocking scheme. We've had some fantasy running back monsters in the past, but we've also had some frustrating committees, and right now this looks almost impossible to project. We got Tevin Coleman joining this team in free agency. He brings Mostert back, and he even goes out and says we could have 4 active backs every game this year. So, I mean, you never know what's going to happen with Shanahan. Breida last year, he led the league in rushing for a few weeks there, but then he goes and gets Coleman. Jerick McKinnon's coming back. How do you think this work is going to be distributed between all these guys? Is there going to ever be anyone reliable, or what's your view of this backfield?
Yeah, this is kind of like it's a tough one from a fantasy football perspective. Which one do you? It's a crapshoot, really, because this is how it's gonna. This is the thinking, and this is how it's gonna play out. Breida's terrific, but he got hurt instantly last year. He's not durable. He's small. You can't count on him, and you really shouldn't be giving him more than 10 carries a game. Yeah. McKinnon, coming off a torn ACL, you shouldn't be counting on him to have more than 10 carries a game. And then Tevin Coleman has never averaged more than 10 carries a game in his career. That's pretty much what he gives you. Also, he'll give you a couple of catches a game, too. So I think the idea is to have those 3 split carries, all 3, to preserve each one of them, because 2 of them, McKinnon and Breida, have had injury issues. And the other one, Coleman, I mean, you're signing him. I would imagine you're not signing him to drastically increase his workload. I think they like the role he played in Atlanta, and they'd like him to replicate that here. That being said, I mean, a 3-pronged committee, and Shanahan did this in 2014 when he was with Cleveland. He had Ben Tate, Terrence West, and Isaiah Crowell, and they all pretty much split carries. So that's not good news from a fantasy football perspective, but what could and probably will happen is, since these guys are so small, these running backs, and injury prone as they've proven in the past, if and when one of them goes down, then the other 2 are going to get more carries. I mean, as the season goes on, one will sort of become the bell cow by default, because he's the last guy standing.
Right.
So what you could do is you could draft Matt Breida in like the very end, and by week 8, you could have one of the best running backs in the league. But it's kind of like taking a long shot bet, but it could pay off, so why not?
Absolutely, yeah. Great stash and see approach, and they all go pretty cheap because everyone recognizes this is crowded. It's going to be a mess, but you're right. The injury concerns with so many of them.
Real quick, thing. They're going to be involved heavily in the passing game. I wouldn't be surprised if Coleman gets 40 targets and McKinnon gets 40 targets. Both of those guys combining to get 80 to 90 targets, and I think the result of that will be fewer targets for Kyle Juszczyk, who is their fullback offensive weapon the last couple of years. He's not that fast. He's not that dynamic or dangerous for a weapon. I think they're going to try to get the ball into the running back's hands the way that they did in Atlanta with Devontae Freeman and Tevin Coleman in the passing game.
What do you think about the goal line? Do you have any guesses as to who might get those valuable touchdowns?
It's a great question, because really it's not what Breida should be doing. He's not a goal line back. It's certainly not what McKinnon should be doing. So I think the guy who'll get the first opportunity is Tevin Coleman, who's about, 210 pounds? 205?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think he'll get a shot. And if he struggles, then Jalen Hurd comes into the picture, because he was a running back in the SEC, and he does weigh about 230 pounds. Now, he's a wide receiver. They gave him a wide receiver number, and he had serious issues with concussions in the SEC, which is why he transferred out. He left the conference, went to the Big 12, where they don't really play defense, and became a wide receiver. So I don't know if he even wants to play running back. Shanahan said he's going to play him at running back in his post-draft press conference, so I think that would be something they would tinker around with midway through the season if they're having trouble with Coleman.
Absolutely, yeah. So a nightmare to project early on, but if you get the guy that is the last man standing, whoever that might be, by week 8, and that's how the running back position always is in fantasy. Yeah, you got your Zekes and your Gurleys, but if you get a couple of those, your flex, you end up finding that right guy at the right time, it could propel you to the title. So, exactly, we've seen Breida have 150-yard, 2 TD days. Maybe it's going to be him come week 8. Maybe it's Coleman. Who knows who it will be, but I'll still be drafting
real quick. Yeah. When they're all healthy, you could say, who's their best running back? Week 1, who should be on the field on 1st and 10? Right. Well, Breida averaged like 6.2 yards per carry on 1st and 10 last year. He's the cheapest of them, and it'd probably be the easiest guy to stash on the bench. But how do you keep him off the field when you're getting that kind of production on 1st and 10? I mean, he doesn't give you the same type of receiving threat out of the backfield, but just running the ball. I mean, I'll take 6 yards.
Yeah, absolutely. He was awesome to watch when he was healthy. I mean, it seemed like every other week he was dying on the NFL field, and like you thought you'd never see him again. And then he's back in the next week. You're like, what is going on here? But when he's healthy and when he's right, I loved watching Breida play. So he's kind of the guy. He goes the cheapest now too. Everyone likes the fact that McKinnon's returning, and everyone loved him before he got hurt last year. And then Coleman's the flashy new guy. So Breida kind of is that third man out. But I wouldn't be shocked at all.
He might be the best running back in the entire team. So definitely that's a good guy to get late.
Absolutely.